Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I've been getting a ton of requests for tutorials for makeup that I've worn in various videos in the last few weeks. So hopefully for any of you who've wanted a tutorial from a previous makeup video, then this is gonna be what you are looking for. This is my go-to makeup every time that I film. Pretty much it stays the same. I'm not going to be doing my eye makeup in this video because I have also filmed a video of all my kind of go-to eye makeup looks that I wear in my videos as well, because I've been getting a lot of requests for that also, so I'm going to do that in a separate video. If it's already up, I will link it down below, but if not, it'll be up very soon. If you've ever wanted a tutorial on a makeup look from one of my previous videos, then this is going to cover all those bases. Sometimes I mix up my products, so I might mix up my bronzer, I might mix up my highlight or my blush, but the way I apply everything and kind of the order and how I do everything is pretty much always stays the same. And I do have my staple products that I almost always use in all of my videos. So first thing, primer. I almost always use the Fenty Primer. You know how I feel about this. I love this primer. I just feel like it gives such a perfect base for makeup. It's smoothing, it feels hydrating, it's nice on the skin. It doesn't like fight with my products, it soaks in nicely, it doesn't feel too sticky, it doesn't feel too greasy. It's just perfect. Then I go in my Charlotte Tilbury Flawless filter. I use the shade 4, and sometimes I'll just mix my foundation with MAC's Strobe Cream, or sometimes I'll do this. So this, I just focus it on the kind of center, the high points of my face. So I'll put it in the middle of my cheeks, down my nose, bit in the center of my forehead, and on my chin. I almost always have my Lancome Teint Idole. Sometimes I use the NARS Natural Radiant. Those are kind of my fave 2 foundations. So just spray a few pumps, I usually just put a few pumps on my tray, and then I go in with my beauty blender and put that over the top of that flawless filter. I don't really like blend that filter in, I just kind of mix it in using my sponge. That way the kind of glow is like intensified where I want it, and it's such an amenable kind of product. You really don't have to work too hard with it to blend it in. Just feel like this gives such a natural skin-like finish, but it does cover everything. My neck is so much paler than my body at the moment, so I am taking it down my neck a little bit. I then pop a bit of my Clinique Beyond Perfecting Concealer on my tray and work this in all the usual places. I'm just obsessed with this concealer. I love that I can go really heavy-handed and get really full coverage, but it still does not crease. It's really nicely in my lines and it doesn't exaggerate them. It's quite hydrating, it doesn't feel heavy, it's just everything you want from a concealer basically, and it's not like mega bucks either. I focus like the most of it right on this inner corner because that's where my worst darkness is. And I blend in under my eyes last because that's where I want to have the most coverage. So I kind of start off blending in the center of my face, and then I do under my eyes last. And I set all of that with my MAC by Patrick Starrr powder. I think when this runs out, because it was limited edition, I'm going to give the Hourglass new Veil powder a go, because that one looks like people are loving it. And I've seen some really amazing reviews from people I trust not to lead me down the garden path. So next up, I like to do a cream contour, and usually my favourite thing to use is the NW50 Studio Fix Perfecting Stick from MAC. Just find this really quick and easy, and like gives me quite a nice natural contour because the shade is not too warm, not too cool, and it just blends really nicely. So I start off always using a brush. This is the Morphe G3, by the way, and this is kind of like a more narrow, like buffing brush, and this is just perfect for making sure that you don't move it too high or too low, but it just kind of gives you a good buffing blend. It's kind of much quicker to do it this way than with a sponge, I find, because it's a bit more oomph to it than the sponge. I don't ever contour like my jawline or anything because I don't feel like I need to contour there. I just like to give myself some cheekbones and kind of give myself some structure to my face, and I think like laying down this cream contour before bronzer stops my bronzer travelling too far down my face, and it just gives me something to blend into and it lasts longer. So once it's kind of at this point where it's a little bit blended but it's obviously way too harsh still, then I go in with my sponge, and this just makes everything sink in and gives you a bit more of a seamless blend. And then obviously you just keep going and blend as much or as little as you want to give you a strong or as soft a contour as you personally would like. I'm going to stop about her. Now for bronzer, I almost always either use the Too Faced Chocolate Soleil or the MAC Glow with It Extra Dimension Skin Finish, depending on if I want a matte bronzer or if I want a more glowy bronzer. I'll use one or the other of these. So today I'm going to use the Chocolate Soleil just because I think that's the one probably more people will have. And my MAC 135. And I focus this right up here on the hairline. And then I blend it in once most of the colour is laid down, and that kind of gives you like an extra contour because you're focusing the majority of your bronzer nearer your hairline. It's kind of giving you an extra little bit of contour. I prefer a less warm bronzer, a more cool or a more neutral bronzer, so any kind of cool or neutral bronzer you have would be fine. And I'm going to put a bit of that down my neck to help it match. It really doesn't right now. And I just find with bronzer, the best thing for me to do, because I am heavy-handed, is to start off light and then just keep building it up until you're happy. But making sure that the biggest amount of bronzer of product is on the outer perimeter of your face, give you a nice sort of blend towards the centre of your face. I mean, my hair is just not cooperating today. You can see how just like the cream bronzer has just stopped, or the cream contour just stops that bronzer travelling too far down my face, because that's a problem I have, and I just feel like it gives me a nice barrier and a bit of a sort of more blended look than if I just go in with bronzer. I do tend to build up my bronzer quite a lot because I find like it fades quite a bit, especially once you go in with setting spray. It kind of, you know, mutes it down a bit, so I find that I start off with a really heavy bronzer, and then by the time everything is finished and the setting spray is done, it will have faded to how I like it. Whereas if I don't make it really heavy, it's like it's almost gone. So highlight wise, I almost always use my Amrezy highlight by Anastasia Beverly Hills. It's my all-time favourite highlight, but again, because it's limited edition, I'm going to show you an alternative. So this is MAC's Whisper of Gilt, which is now permanent, and I like to use a fan brush. This is the Sigma F42, and the only thing really to tell you about my highlight, obviously you know how to apply highlight, is I really like to buff my highlight in. I like it to be on my temples, and then I buff it down the cheek always before I do my blush, because I feel like that gives me a bit better of a blended highlight. So here I just like buff it and buff it and buff it in, and I spend quite a bit of time working it into the cheek and quite a bit of pressure. I'm not just sort of, you know, butterfly kissing it. I'm really buffing it in, and that way I feel like it looks more skin-like, a lot more natural, and just a bit more sort of wet looking than shimmery. And all the usual places, I like it above the arch of my brow, down my nose, cupid's bow, and then I just put the rest on my chin, so you get a bit of glow there, but it's not really too much. And then I really, again, work that into my chin, so it's not sitting on top, it's really sort of blended in and looks like more natural. I always like to hit this point here with highlight in between my brows because I think it looks really pretty when you're looking straight forward. It gives you a really dewy look. And again, you can just build that up to whatever your taste is. I'm going to use this Zoeva 238 teeny tiny brush to go on the inner corners. So that is really important for me. I literally do that every day. And under the very arch of my brow, this just gives you a tiny bit of something there. Because the brush is so small, it doesn't come too far down, it's not too much. I change up my blushes all the time. My favourite ones at the moment are the new MAC Mineralise blushes in Naturally Flawless or Like Me Love Me. Basically any peachy or neutral blush will do. I love the Benefit Gold Rush blush and I like the Clinique Cheek Pop in the shade Ginger. So yeah, any kind of neutral or peachy blush will do. That is what I do every time I do my makeup. I always use a peachy blush. And I like to start off a little bit higher on my cheek and blend it forward to give me just a bit more of a natural blended look. Because if you bring it too far in to start with, you've got nowhere to blend and you'll end up too far in with too much colour in the centre of your face. And this, going in with blush after highlight, just gives you something to blend into your highlight and just make it sit more natural. I feel like it makes the highlight more a part of your face rather than sitting on top of your cheekbone. This is, I don't know if I told you I was using the Gold Rush one today, but yeah, any peachy blush is my thing. What I've been doing recently every time I do my makeup is using a nude liner in my lower waterline. This is the MAC pencil in NC15, which is the Studio Chromographic pencil, and this is perfect. I just find that as I've got older, that sort of lower waterline looks quite red a lot of the time. Maybe it's because it's summer as well, so I really don't skip that step ever. So next I'm going to go in with my MAC Fix Plus in the shade Pink Light. This just gives me a really natural finish to my skin, keeps it looking really skin-like and gives me like a nice dewy glowy finish. And I'll go in with my second coat of mascara, and I never do this until I've sprayed because that Fix Plus spray is really wet. I've also been loving the iconic Prep Set Glow spray as well, but both of those are very wet and they can move your mascara, so don't apply that just after you've done your mascara. And I never do lower lash mascara until I have sprayed because that can make a transfery mess. I just barely touch my lower lashes with mascara because they are very long, so I don't want them to be overboard. Obviously I always change up my lip colour, but some of my favourites are the MAC Bite of Georgia if I'm doing like a more peachy look. If I'm doing a more neutral look, I'll either use Velvet Teddy by MAC, I might use the lip tensity like the Bite of Georgia in Dough. I love Celebrity Skin from Jeffree Star, but if I'm doing quite a muted look, I might just use On Repeat Gloss from Dose of Colours. That's what I'm going to put on today. So there you have it, that is the finished look. This is kind of my go-to every time I film. This is pretty much the makeup that I'm wearing, give or take. I might swap in a blush or swap in a bronzer. I love like soft glam looks, that's kind of like my go-to look, and this is kind of pretty much what I wear more or less every time I film. So if you're ever looking for a tutorial on the makeup I'm wearing in a video, this is like my go-to pretty much every time I film, unless I've just filmed a tutorial, in which case I'll always link that tutorial again in the description bar. Please don't forget to like and subscribe before you go so I can see you again. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye 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 bye.